Calling to order the regular meeting of the Wheeling Plan Commission for Wednesday, May 12th, 2021. Please stand for the pledge. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll.
Commissioner Blanova.
I'm here.
Commissioner Berkey.
Here.
Commissioner Sprague is here. Commissioner Yednak.
Present.
Chairman Johnson.
Here. Ms. Nyes, any changes to tonight's agenda?
No changes.
All right. Citizens' concerns and comments. This is the opportunity for citizens to come forward and talk about business related. We have none? Okay. All right. Then we'll move right on. We have no consent items tonight, but we have a full docket of items to review. So we'll start with docket 2021-10, special use to permit outdoor storage at 150 West Carpenter. Mr. Secretary.
Docket number 2021-10, Elenco Electronics Incorporated property owner seeks special use as required under Title 19 zoning of the Wheeling Municipal Code, Chapter 19-07 Industrial Districts, Chapter 19-10 Use Regulation and associated sections to permit outdoor storage associated with Elenco Electronics Incorporated in the I-1 Light Industrial and Office and I-3 General Industrial Districts for the property located at 150 Carpenter Avenue. A special use is defined in the zoning code as a use of parcel of land that requires review and consideration before approval due to the potential for negative impacts on surrounding properties. In order to be considered for a special use, the petitioner is required to demonstrate through testimony to the Planning Commission at a public hearing that their request meets the standards of the village code, including, but not limited to, how the proposed use will not damage the enjoyment or use of the surrounding properties. Prior to the public hearing, the petitioner provides written statements meant to show that the request meets the standards for special uses established in Title 19. The Commission chairperson will typically direct that these statements be entered into the record without a full reading of them at the hearing. Based upon the testimony and supporting materials submitted, the Plan Commission will make findings in support of or against the petitioner's testimony and report those findings to the Village Board.
Thank you. Ms. Nyes, what have you got on this one?
Thank you. Okay. So this docket is to permit outdoor storage containers. They are proposing 6 of them on the property, and these are similar to the containers that would go out there. This property previously had containers out there, and they were located closer to the building. It was determined that they needed to come and get a special use for outdoor storage, so they removed the containers from the site. And we've suggested that if approved, when they come back, that they be located away from the building, and this will allow for better circulation of the parking areas instead of being cut off here at the building. I think they meet the parking requirement even with the loss of the 11 parking spaces. And that's really all I have.
All right. Is the petitioner here? Yes. Please step forward. And you can take the mask off so we can understand better.
Sure.
State your name and spell it and your business address.
Sure. Linda Kramer, Elenco Electronics. I apologize. Kramer, K-R-A-M-E-R. Elenco Electronics is at 130 and 150 West Carpenter in Wheeling.
All right. Tell us.
You have to swear, Mr. Chairman?
Oh, I did forget. I have to swear you in. You swear the testimony you're giving tonight to be the truth.
Yes.
Thank you. All right. Tell us a little bit about what it is you're doing that Ms. Nyes might not have.
Sure. She did a great job. So we have been at this location since 1985, and we put an addition to it on in 2002. But we do need some additional space for storage. We are a maker of educational toys and educational products. We would be storing, as we did before, educational toys. Primarily, our brand is called Snap Circuits. We make them for kids to teach them about learning science and electronics. We would be storing toys in there. There would be no batteries, nothing toxic or anything like that. And it is just for extra storage, especially around the holidays when we have things that come in overseas and have to sit until we need them. So what we had them against the building, and now we've been asked to move them. So we found if we moved them into the spot as shown, it would be within fire code, within 60 feet from the back of our property. And that seems like that would work. We had them for many years without a complaint. So we'd like to continue to do that.
Thank you. I see no one from the public came to discuss this, so we can move right to the commission. Commissioner Berkey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have no questions at this time.
Commissioner Blanova.
Thank you. I have no question.
Commissioner Yednek.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This question, I guess, for staff. So the residential buildings that were notified, were they notified in writing? I noticed right behind the parking lot, because the sign is on the other side. They might not have saw that.
Yes, property owners within 250 feet of this property were notified, so that included the property owners to the west.
Okay.
No, to the
South, north.
It would be to the
North?
North, yeah, it's north.
North, yeah.
Yeah, it's north. You might have answered or covered some of my concern. You said you had the storage units before.
We had them for 8 years previously, and we
And-
never had a complaint.
All right, so what I was wondering though is like, does the presence of the storage units increase any truck traffic? But I'm assuming if you had them before,
It would actually decrease the truck traffic because the trucks come to the front, and we wouldn't need, anything. We wouldn't have to have an outside storage facility, which is what we currently have had to do, and our employees have to shuttle kind of back and forth to get it. And if it were just there, we can grab what we need when we need it.
are there forklifts going up and back to the storage containers? Or is it
There would
just
be
hand
like a
carts?
hand crank.
Okay, the pallet jacks?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And what hours would you be going in and out, would the employees be going in and out of the storage containers?
Usually that would be done, our main hours are 7:30 to 3:30, but that type of thing would usually be done after the lunch hour.
So you don't have a swing shift or graveyard shift?
No,
or
no,
anything
we
like that?
we never do that.
So it's daytime business hours?
Correct.
Okay, that's all I have, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Sprague.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have no questions.
And I have no questions. Anything else from the commission? Ms. Nyes, any conditions?
no conditions.
Then do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Yednek, Commissioner Blanova.
Commissioner Yednak,
Yes.
Commissioner Blanova,
Yes.
Commissioner Berkey,
Yes.
Commissioner Sprague is a yes, Chairman Johnson.
Yes. Marcy, you'll be in touch with them as far as,
Yes, so now this will move to the village board meeting on June 7th.
Yes.
And it'll be the same kind of thing.
Great.
All right, thank you.
thank
Thank you
you.
very much.
Don't we have a second
We have the-
agenda
we
item?
have the
So,
Second item,
Oops.
the minor site plan.
Just-
I'll stay here.
Oh, yes. We need a motion to close the public hearing portion, however.
So moved.
Second.
Got that?
Yep. Marcy? Marcy get it?
Yeah.
Okay. Commissioner Sprague is a yes, Commissioner Blanova,
Yes.
Commissioner Berkey,
Yes.
Commissioner Yednak,
yes.
Chairman Johnson.
Yes. All right, now we move on to your other one, PC 21-11, a minor site plan approval for the same petitioner at 150 Carpenter. I assume, Marcy, you don't have anything
No.
more?
No.
Anything else from the petitioner? Anything else from the commission regarding the site plan? I see nothing. So let's.
So moved.
Second.
Sprague and Berkey.
Commissioner Sprague is a yes. Commissioner Berkey.
Yes.
Commissioner Blanova.
Yes.
Commissioner Yednak.
Yes.
Chairman Johnson.
Yes,
Great,
very painless.
thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up, we have docket 2021-13, special use to permit a recreation and instruction facility at 970 Seton Court. Ms. Nyes, Mr. Secretary, we'll go with you first.
Docket number 2021-13, AP Stretching Studio and AP Rhythmic Academy, Lee C, is seeking a special use as required in Title 19 zoning of the Wheeling Municipal Code, Chapter 19-07, Industrial Districts, Chapter 19-10, Use Regulations, and associated sections in order to permit a recreation and instruction facility, AP Stretching Studio and Academy, located at 970 Seton Court, which is zoned I-1, Light Industrial and Office. A special use is defined in the zoning code as a use of parcel of land that requires review and consideration before approval due to the potential for negative impacts on surrounding properties. In order to be considered for a special use, the petitioner is required to demonstrate through testimony to the Plan Commission at a public hearing that the request meets the standards of the village code, including but not limited to how the proposed use will not damage the enjoyment or use of the surrounding properties. Prior to the public hearing, the petitioner provides written statements meant to show that the request meets the standards for a special use as established in Title 19. The Commission chairperson will typically direct that these statements be entered into the record without a full reading of them at the hearing. Based upon the testimony and supporting materials submitted, the Plan Commission will make findings in support of or against the petitioner's testimony and report those findings to the village board.
Thank you. Ms. Nyes, anything on this?
Yes. The petitioner is seeking a special use for a recreation and instruction facility. They're currently operating as a small recreation and instruction facility, which limits the maximum occupancy to 12 individuals, so that includes clients and employees. So in order for them to have more than 12 employees, they need to apply for a special use approval for a large recreation and instruction facility so that they're not limited for that use. Their main hours of operation are Monday through Friday from 4 to 8, and then Saturday 9 to 12. We did do an analysis of the parking. I did go by there a couple times during the day, and there was nobody actually parking. But I'm aware that there is people parking there, later in the afternoon hours. But based on our parking analysis, the industrial warehouse and active uses on the site, plus the spaces required for the studio only amount to 42 spaces, and there's currently 58 spaces on the site. So even if you had more than 12 students, which is what you had told me you thought you would have, there would still be room for more parking. And there were no conditions with this proposed.
All right. Need to swear you in, so raise your right hands. You swear the testimony you're giving tonight to be the truth.
Yes. Yes.
Please state your names and spell them.
Okay. Anastasia Podrushniak, Anastasya. Huh? And Podrushniak is Podrushnyak.
My name is Anna, A-N-N-A. Last name is Trunova, Trunova. I'm currently helping out Anastasia with, first we're renting the space, and also I'm one of the moms who has her child there. Anastasia is a coach.
Yeah, I'm the owner of Rhythmic Gymnastics Academy. I was past member of national team of Ukraine. I have career was 15 years in my country. Now I want to teach children how to do gymnastics, to be healthy, to be active. And I'd like to ask you to make a special use permit to teach more kids.
Very well.
To add into it. So looking into when my husband and I would do real estate, so that's how we kind of got together.
Can you slide over by the microphone?
Oh,
Or
apologize. So we looked into the capacity and how it's going to be used. There's definitely no interference with any businesses that are neighboring in terms of the parking. I know that was one of the questions and issues. Since majority of the classes are held in the afternoon after kids come back from either daycare or school. And I know a lot of our parents who are in the same schools, we carpool a lot as well. So parking shouldn't be an issue in terms of intervening with other businesses. I think it would be a great addition to Wheeling, since there's no rhythmic gymnastics anywhere in the area. The nearest ones are going to Northbrook and Highland Park and Niles. And I think it would be great if we can have Anastasia continue with her work. And I know there's already a line for kids and for parents and to join into this, and they're looking forward to be able to do this.
All right, thank you. Nobody signed up for public comments on this. So we'll move on to the commission. Commissioner Sprague.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening. My only concern is the room you have for parking. Commissioner Yednick was there when there was, when businesses were open, and he saw when the parking lot was being used. I was there when there was no one there, so it was hard for me to tell. So I'd like to defer to Commissioner Yednick for the parking issue. That's all I have. Thank you.
Well, he happens to be next. It's Commissioner Yednick.
Thanks. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I apologize, Marcy. The hours of the business slipped by. Can you repeat what the hours are going to be?
Yeah, it's Monday, Friday from 4 p.m. till 8 p.m.
Monday through Friday?
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday 9 a.m. till 12 p.m.
Okay, and then you, in your petition, in your request, you mentioned that you wanted to run a camp. Is that going to be just the weekends, or or the summer camp, is that going to be during the days? What's your plans for the
Yeah,
the
we
camp?
plan to make a summer camp maybe like 1 week or 2 weeks, and it's supposed to be the same time, like from 4 till 8.
So it'll be the same hours?
Yeah, because kids has school or kindergarten, so they can do just these hours.
Okay, and Marcy, maybe you know, are all the spots in the buildings, are they all leased out?
I'm not sure.
Okay, and I'm curious then, okay, so let me ask you then, going back to your calculations. So you have information for 2 tenants, the industrial warehouse, industrial active, or is that just the spaces in those? Do your calculations cover the whole building?
Yeah, so the calculation for parking for industrial uses is based on the square footage. So I took the square footage of the building, and based on what part of the building was warehouse, we gave it the 1 per 1,000 ratio, and then the part that was not warehouse, we gave it the 2 per 1,000 ratio.
But then
So
if,
yes, it covers the whole building.
But if another tenant came in, because it looked like some of those spaces, maybe you could say, do you know if all the spaces are occupied by other tenants?
Well, this would cover it.
What?
This would cover anybody who's in there.
Well, not if there was a different business. If it was more like a
But-
similar kind of a business like this, it would have a higher parking requirement, wouldn't it?
Oh, if it's different.
Yeah, if a different business would have a higher parking requirement, that would have active customers or something. This is only warehouse, which is a lower requirement, isn't it?
Well, their parking is only 6 spaces required.
And that's the next question I had. So you're saying that there are only going to be 6 spaces with the increase in allocation? With the increased class sizes? We only have to require 6 spaces?
Based on her submittal that she was only going to have 12 students with 2 coaches. So that was her minimum, but it could go up from there. This just shows that her minimum, there was enough space. But there is 58 spaces available and only 42 allocated, so there's
Yeah, but
extra room in
well-
there. We don't have to allocate a specific number of spaces to her. We just
Okay.
have to show that there's room.
Well, 6 seems criminally low because when you go there, the parents are going to come and they're going to sit, so each kid's going to represent a car, plus each coach is going to represent a car more than likely.
But the requirement is 1 space per 3 attendees. So
Okay.
that's how we base it.
Well, then we got a problem in our code for this kind of situation. And, yeah, I was there last night about 5:15. There was a class going on. Now, where we're showing here the 4 spaces along the street, those look to me like those were not even allocated spaces, but now I see there are. But there were 5 cars there, and pretty much all the spaces were filled up in front of your tenant. My concern, 6 spaces I don't think is enough, and I think you're going to have a lot more people. Are you willing to tell your attendees that they got to go around the side and the back of the building? Because I'm guessing that, everybody that's going to come is going to want to park as close to the door as they can. So you're 8, we got 14 spaces in the front of the building are going to fill up immediately. And then I don't want to have overflow parking on the street or double parking in the front of the lot. So your people are going to, I think your class, if you have a 12-person class, it's probably going to represent 12 to 15 vehicles. Yes. Yeah.
So,
Go ahead.
as a parent and as the person who actually comes in to park and around and brings the kids, there's a lot of people who also carpool with kids because it's still 4 or 5 o'clock, class 6 o'clock. A lot of the times it comes in to when people are, and some parents coming from work, and not all of them are able to make it for each time. So we do a lot of carpooling and changing the times. Or a lot of the times somebody comes in, we drop the kids off if it's a 2-hour class. Sitting there doesn't make sense. We usually go out and like my husband is going to be picking up my daughter right now rather than me sitting there for 2 hours.
Well, that was one of my questions. I was wondering,
Yeah.
do the parents usually stay or do they drop off? So-
No, it's more of since the classes are about 2 hours, we usually drop them off and then come back to pick them up.
Okay, because I think we had a exercise petitioner a couple weeks ago, and they were saying in their situation, the parents would come and they'd watch the class and they'd stay for the class. So
No.
in your situation, it's mostly drop off and pick up? Okay, all right, because, I did see quite a few cars there last night, but then I did see some parents coming out, so maybe it was about 5:15. Would that have been maybe in between
Yeah,
the
you
class?
caught the drop-off time.
Okay, all right, then, that's why I was parked up then. That was my biggest concern, but I mean, I would hope that the burden would be on you if you see that because you're going to be growing, if people you don't want to make your neighbors angry in the parking, so you're going to maybe have to, encourage your clients to make sure they use the side spots after hours and all the way to the back if they have to, just so we don't end up with an enforcement situation spill over to the street, because I don't believe there's any parking on the street there. Is there?
Understandable, absolutely.
Okay, all right, thank you. That's all I have there, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Blanova.
I have nothing, thank you.
Commissioner Berkey.
My question is, thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question is for staff. Would it be maybe a possibility to have signage that would designate parking for different tenants throughout that complex?
I think that would be up to the management of the complex.
Okay.
So that's not something we can regulate. And there is no parking allowed on Seton Court, and there are signs posted there.
Right,
So people shouldn't be parking there.
okay, that's all I had.
Thank you. What are the ages of the students that you have? What age range?
From 3 years old.
Wow. You start them early, huh?
Yeah.
And how long have you been doing this here?
5 years.
Okay, any other questions from the commission? I see none. And Ms. Nyes, you said there are no conditions?
No conditions.
Then I would entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Yednek and Blanova?
Commissioner Yednak,
Yes.
Commissioner Blanova,
Yes.
Commissioner Berkey,
Yes,
Commissioner Sprague is a yes, Chairman Johnson.
Yes.
Good luck.
Thank you so much.
So you'll come back for the village board meeting on June 7th.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And now I need a motion to close this public hearing.
So moved.
second.
Sprague and Berkey.
Commissioner Sprague is a yes, Commissioner Berkey,
Yes,
Commissioner Blanova,
Yes.
Commissioner Yednak,
Yes.
Chairman Johnson.
Yes. All right, moving on to our next special use, docket 2021-16, special use to operate a credit union at 50 West Dundee Road. This one also has a minor site plan approval to follow. Mr. Secretary.
Docket number 2021-16, Self-Reliance Federal Credit Union Contract Purchaser seeks a special use as required under Title 19 zoning of the Wheeling Municipal Code, Chapter 19-10, Use Regulations and Associated Sections. In order to operate a credit union, Self-Reliance Federal Credit Union in the B3 General Commercial and Office District for the property located at 50 West Dundee Road. A special use as defined in the zoning code is a use of parcel of land that requires review and consideration before approval due to the potential for negative impacts on surrounding properties. In order to be considered for a special use, the petitioner is required to demonstrate through testimony to the Plan Commission at a public hearing that the request meets the standards of the village code, including but not limited to how the proposed use will not damage the enjoyment or use of the surrounding properties. Prior to the public hearing, the petitioner provides written statements meant to show that the request meets the standards for a special use as established in Title 19. The commission chairperson will typically direct that these statements be entered into the record without a full reading of them at the hearing. Based upon the testimony and supporting material submitted, the Plan Commission will make findings in support of or against the petitioner's testimony and report those findings to the village board.
Thank you. Ms. Nyes.
Thank you. So this petition is first for a special use for a credit union, and then next we'll talk about the minor site plan approval. And we do have some proposed conditions for the minor site plan, but for the special use, it does require, the credit union does require special use approval, and they do have their proposed hours of operation in the staff report, which I can let the applicant go over. But one thing I did want to mention was the parking. This is an old building that was approved back in 1961. And as it was originally approved and permitted, there were 14 parking spaces. 12 of those were outside and 2 of those were in the garage. So as a result, the petitioner is maintaining those 14 parking spaces, 12 of those outside, 2 of those in the garage, and therefore they're going to retain the legal non-conforming status of the parking. So the number of spaces are going to remain the same.
Thank you. And I assume the petitioner is here. The petitioners, please step up to the podium and state your names and spell them for our recording secretary and your business addresses.
I'm attorney B. George Olekshuk. It's Oleksyuk, business at 422 East Palatine Road in Palatine 60074. I'm the attorney for Self-Reliance.
Thank you.
Peter Elnicki, Peterilnykyj, and I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Self-Reliance Federal Credit Union.
Thank you.
Ellen Leskiv, architect for this project, 1701 South First Avenue, Maywood, Illinois.
Can you spell your last name just for our secretary?
Leskiv.
Thank you. All right.
You need to swear him in?
Yeah, might as well get all three of you. You swear the testimony you're giving tonight to be the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Please go ahead with your presentation.
All right. Well, Self-Reliance Federal Credit Union has been located in Chicago since 1951. We have a number of branches, both in Illinois, and we have some in New Jersey and in Michigan. Our main office is located on Chicago Avenue in the Ukrainian Village area. We have, I think, over 24,000 members, and what's been happening most recently, we're getting more and more members from the suburbs, the Wheeling area and surrounding areas. We just have more people all the time joining our credit union. Nowadays, it would just be much easier for our members who live in Wheeling and around Wheeling to be able to come in to a location up here rather than having to, go down to Chicago Avenue, especially with COVID. It's just better to be in your own neighborhood. So we would benefit our ever-growing membership, and as a credit union, we of course, have certain services, slightly better rates than some other financial institutions, and that would be a benefit to the community here. So we are looking to put in a branch. We're pretty much full service in terms of what we offer our members. Now, we're not looking to have a drive-in facility. That the building isn't suitable for that. It's just not big enough. It's a small building. We are looking to probably have 5 employees there on a regular basis, 2 tellers, 2 customer service representatives, and a loan officer or originator. The parking, our architect spent quite a bit of time working on the plan, working with the staff to fit in, the same number of spaces that you had before, the 14 spaces. I think he's achieved that. It took a bit of drawing, but now that's what architects are for, is to be able to do that. So we have adequate parking. This is a vacant office building, so you really would prefer to have an occupied property, I think. And the type of use, we're not adding any sort of a burden here. We shouldn't be, I don't see that it would disturb the neighbors. The access is off of Dundee. Dundee's a busy road. It's a commercial road. So I think our use would pretty much fit in. And, we've made adjustments to our plans to satisfy concerns that staff has raised over time.
Okay. Anybody else want to speak on it at this point, or wait for the questions?
They're here if there are questions to be answered. We do have the other two folks, the architect, of course, who from the technical point of view, he knows that stuff. And we do have, the Peter from the credit union.
Okay. Thank you. We had nobody from the public sign up to discuss this, so we can move on to the commissioners, and let's start with Commissioner Blanova.
Thank you. I have nothing on this one. Thank you.
Commissioner Sprague.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, gentlemen. That fence that connects the two buildings, that space in between the two buildings, is that your responsibility for maintaining, or is that, do you know
Ellen,
that?
can you speak to that?
That's existing fence. I believe we have to replace this new one, same type, and because there is a present closure for that. And that area, we want to...
Could you come over here by the microphone? For our vast television audience at home.
And our secretary.
This was originally, it was a couple bollards on the west side of the property. So we removed that and install new one. Do not disturb those parking spaces. We left opening for the driveway and piece of that old wooden fence to be replaced with new one, according to the Village of Wheeling ordinances.
So you're going to replace those two fences that connect the buildings?
Yes.
And will it be your responsibility to maintain that space in there?
I believe it's going to be responsible.
If we replace them, we'll maintain them, yes.
Okay. My only other question is, I see that you're going to use the basement quite extensively for part of your business. Have you looked into the history of any kind of flooding in that basement being next to the creek?
No, there is no any issue with flood. We was working with civil engineer, with village engineers. We got the record of the base floodplain. There is no issue. We got the report of that.
Elevation
Okay.
certificate. And based on the discussions, we shouldn't have any issues with the basement.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Commissioner Yednick.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Are we doing the special use and the site plan? Because I don't have any questions on special use. I do have some
Okay,
questions on
we'll just hit the special use for now.
just special use
Yeah.
right now? Okay.
So you had
No
nothing?
questions on special use. Thank you.
Commissioner Berkey?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have no questions.
Okay, it'd be great to see that building spruced up and back in use again. Do you have access to that alley that's behind there through your parking lot?
Yes, this is originally was the traffic pattern from the Dundee to the alley, so we remain the same.
Okay. I had nothing else. Any other questions from the commission on the special use? No? Ms. Nyes, any conditions?
No.
Then I would entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
And Berkey.
Commissioner Yednack,
Yes.
Commissioner Berkey,
Yes.
Commissioner Blanova,
Yes.
Commissioner Sprague is a yes, Chairman Johnson.
Yes. And a motion to close the special use and stay there. We'll get to your next one.
So moved.
Second.
Yednick?
Commissioner Sprague is a yes, Commissioner Yednack,
Yes.
Commissioner Blanova,
Yes.
Commissioner Berkey,
Yes.
Chairman Johnson.
Yes. All right, docket PC 21-13, the minor site plan approval at 50 West Dundee. Ms. Nyes, anything additional on the site plan?
We just have 4 proposed conditions.
All right. Yeah, go ahead, read them now.
Number 1, all bollards shall be removed or relocated prior to occupancy. Number 2, the proposed optional motorcycle parking areas shown on the site plan shall be removed from the plans. Number 3, the construction method for establishing green space areas shall be submitted with the engineering site permit application. And number 4, the trash enclosure detail shall be submitted with the building permit application.
Thank you. Anything more from the petitioners?
We're very happy to comply with all of the recommendations.
Very good. Let's go back to the commission. Commissioner Blanova again.
Thank you. I see there will be the parking lot will be repaired, but what about the windows? Is anything going to be done with the windows?
No, this existing windows to remain.
Okay,
We have no any changes to the basement.
got it.
Same
Okay.
condition.
That's all I have.
Commissioner Sprague.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have no other questions.
Commissioner Yednek.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm looking forward to this building getting cleaned up. It's like Chairman Johnson said, it's overdue and it'd be nice to see it occupied. First question I guess I have for staff is what's the objection to the motorcycle parking?
We just don't believe it's necessary, I guess. The one in the parking in the front just might be in the way for the regular parking spaces.
Well, did you measure that out? Is it sufficient with access? And the side motorcycle, I'm assuming that might be for some employee parking?
Sometimes people use car, sometimes.
Right. But I'm guessing if staff thinks that the motorcycle parking in the customer lot would be an obstruction, did you evaluate that from an engineering standpoint or from an access standpoint? Would that be an obstruction?
No, there is no obstruction because the length of the parking actually much longer than three spaces for bike. But we can remove from the front of the building, but we can remain on the west side.
Okay, I guess I'm just not sure why we're objecting if they want to allocate some space and allow people
Just
to.
the conflict here, if you can see my arrow.
What's that?
If you can see my arrow on the
Yeah.
monitor, just with maybe backing up or coming out and then just the entrance and exit of the,
What about for the employee spots along the side of the building there on the west side? I mean, because I could see as the customers are going to be coming and going, so if somebody had a motorcycle, they'd probably pull into a car spot and go do their banking business and then come back out. But if the employee came for the day, is it against code or anything that we wouldn't allow them to access or allocate a couple of motorcycle spots for employees?
no, that's fine,
They could also go in the garage too.
correct.
Well, but if they don't have enough staff parking, you could have the motorcycle. I mean, I'm assuming the garage is going to be for the executives. If the teller rides it in a motorcycle, they might not let him park in the garage.
The garage is for the lawyer.
The garage is for the lawyer. Okay, he's got his special space. All right, I just was wondering why we objected to motorcycle parking, if there was a code issue or not. I would personally not object to adding it back into the employee spot. On that note, I was wondering, and this will probably come up, I think somebody on the village board is a big fan of the bicycle racks. Is there any place that you could maybe add a bicycle rack for access? I don't know I know it's a tight lot, just a thought. I'm not making it a condition necessarily, but if you could find a place, we're trying to make the village accessible, foot traffic, bike traffic, all kinds of alternate transportation. So if you could put a bike rack out front, that'd be nice.
Well, I think there is enough three spots on the west side, and actually we can add on the west-north corner. There is plenty of room. We can put it.
If it's doable, as long as the village, or as long as the staff doesn't think it'll be an obstruction, or engineering or fire department doesn't think, you might want to consider a space. When I was looking at the landscaping plan, unless I'm misreading it, it looks like you're doing a lot of landscaping in the back, but is there anything going to happen in the front? At least clean up some of the existing bushes?
That's all existing.
So the front is going to remain existing? Because I was wondering if you
Yeah.
could do anything to add some
The
color.
patch to be resurfaced, to be repaint the parking, that's existing. We just add new greenery to the east side of the building. It originally was gravel. See hatch. It's to be greenery.
Well, okay, then, so the existing landscaping up front,
Yes.
can it at least be trimmed, maintained, have your landscaper come out? I mean, it's pretty rough looking right now, and I was just wondering if there's any way you could add any enhancements, bring some color into there to kind of clean up, just brighten up the building a little bit, if it could be considered. I'm not looking again to make it a condition, but I know the landscaping in front is rough, and that's the public-facing part of the building.
Yeah, because we install sign, see a couple bushes around.
Okay, those are new,
Of
okay.
course, the grass to be replaced or,
Yeah, there's new shrubs proposed here, and then there's new shrubs proposed
Oh,
along
those
the
are new
building.
shrubs, okay, I missed
yeah,
those.
a couple of them is existing, but I believe it's going to be replaced.
Like I said, I might have misread the plans, I was looking at it last night, my eyes might have been blurry. Oh, that's all I have, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Berkey?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Nothing for me.
All right. I see a note about sign near the front. Is there an existing monument sign there now that they're going to eventually come back and replace, or?
I don't know if
I
there's
know
a
we're
sign
not doing
there now.
signage tonight, but,
No, there's like a temporary one. They'll have to
Yeah,
come
it's a
back
new
first.
location, 10 feet from property line.
so, yeah. So you'll have to come back for your signage stuff, but,
It's like next step.
yeah. Any other questions from the commission? All right, conditions? The four that you read? Do I hear a motion?
Are we taking any action on the motorcycle, or just leave it as not allowed?
I can't recall any site that we had special motorcycle parking. I mean, motorcycles can use parking spaces, regular parking spaces.
Okay.
So, as long as, we didn't count those extra in the parking space count, right?
No.
Okay, so,
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Sprague is a yes. Commissioner Blanova?
Yes.
Commissioner Berkey?
Yes.
Commissioner Yadnak?
Yes.
Chairman Johnson?
yes. Thank you, gentlemen.
So you'll go to the board meeting on June 7th for the special use. The minor site plan is approved here, and it's done here.
Very good. We'll be back. Thank you.
Welcome.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, welcome.
All right, next up, docket 2021-11, special use to permit an animal shelter at 586 Palwaukee Drive. Mr. Secretary?
Heartland Animal Shelter, NFP, contract purchaser, seeks the special uses required under Title 19 zoning of the Wheeling Municipal Code, Chapter 19-07 Industrial Districts, Chapter 19-10 Use Regulation, and associated sections to permit an animal shelter, Heartland Animal Shelter, in the I-2 Limited Industrial District for the property located at 586 Palwaukee Drive. A special use is defined in the zoning code as a use of parcel of land that requires review and consideration before approval due to the potential for negative impacts on surrounding properties. In order to be considered for a special use, the petitioner is required to demonstrate through testimony to the Plan Commission at a public hearing that the request meets the standards of the village code, including but not limited to how the proposed use will not damage the enjoyment or use of the surrounding properties. Prior to the public hearing, the petitioner provides written statements meant to show that the request meets the standards for special uses established in Title 19. The Commission chairperson will typically direct that these statements be entered into the record without a full reading of them at the hearing. Based upon the testimony and supporting materials submitted, the Plan Commission will make findings in support of or against the petitioner's testimony and report those findings to the village board.
Thank you. Ms. Nice.
So this project, again, has the special use and a site plan, a minor site plan. We did have one proposed condition to the minor site plan. We've been working with the petitioner to make some changes, which they have done, and I think we'll let you guys do the presentation.
Sure.
All right.
Good evening.
Need to swear you in. You swear the testimony you're giving tonight to be the truth.
Yes.
And then as you come up to speak, state your name.
We missed one
Oh, we missed one? A late swear-in? Do you swear the testimony to be the truth? Okay.
Yes, I do.
And as you come up to speak, state your name, spell it, and business address. So, whoever's going to start.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the Plan Commission. For the record, my name is Scott Hargadon, Hargadon. I am a member of the law firm of Meltzer, Pertil, and Stell in Chicago. I am here on behalf of Heartland Animal Shelter. Much like the last petition, this involves an office building that has sat vacant for 2.5 years and is an exciting proposed reuse for a not-for-profit. With me tonight, I have, to my right, I have Cheryl Weston, who is the board chair of Heartland. I have to my left, I have Gabriella Caresi-Uresti, who is the executive director of the organization, as well as our architect, Stan Amelkevich. Rather than me tell the story as a lawyer, I will first let Cheryl talk to you about the organization, and then Gabby will talk about what is proposed for the building and the proposed changes, and also why we chose that building.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Cheryl, C-H-E-R-Y-L, Weston, W-E-S-T-I-N. As Scott mentioned, I'm the current president of the board of Heartland Animal Shelter. I've also been a volunteer for 6 years, an adoption counselor, and I've also been a resident of Wheeling for the last 30-plus years. So I just want to attest to the fact that Heartland would be an excellent community member. I think it would bring some, nice community service to everyone. Our goal, since I've been on the board, is to have a permanent home. We've been currently renting for the last 20 years. So it is nice to think that we might have a place where the animals and the volunteers can feel a part of the shelter and the community of Wheeling. This building will more than meet our needs, as you'll see with the architecture plans. We also have a very robust community experience. Gabby will probably go into more. We bring in school groups and teach children how to take care of animals. Obviously we adopt out animals, cats and dogs, to the public. And, we have regular outreach communities. We have scout groups. Almost every year we have an Eagle Scout project to, help us remodel something or another. So we enjoy working with the community areas. And as a mother of an Eagle Scout, I would have loved to help an animal shelter during his tenure. We also have become involved recently in low-cost spay-neuter clinics with outside organizations. They wouldn't be at the shelter. So we can help the population around here who might not be able to afford those services for themselves. That's really all I want to say. I just think we'd be a fantastic corporate citizen. So I just hope you really consider us moving into this building. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Gabriella, G-A-B-R-I-E-L-L-A. Last name Caresi, K-E-R-E-S-I hyphen U-R-E-S-T-I. And as Scott mentioned, I am the Executive Director of Heartland Animal Shelter. So I will I'll go through the plans and I'll talk a little bit about us. Heartland has been located in Northbrook since 2002. We're actually right off of Milwaukee Avenue. We have been looking for the past year for a permanent place to call our own. We, like as Cheryl mentioned, we've been renting since the shelter opened its doors, and our current shelter, it definitely, in the new shelter, we'll be able to have a much more first-class location and also more first-class, for the animals, for the community. So we're really looking to bring that aspect to the city of Wheeling. We were absolutely thrilled when we visited this building. We actually visited quite a few other locations prior to finding this location, and we picked it not just because of the location, but also because it would completely be able to, serve our needs for the shelter. As you can see from the site plans, the location, there isn't a building directly onto the left of the building. There's actually an open grass area there, so we're pretty spaced out and far from that. There's ample parking for us, and the interior of the building is 8,500 square feet, and the way that we have worked with our architect, Stan, we've been able to really utilize every inch of the space to provide an adequate shelter place for not just the dogs and the cats, the puppies that come in, being able to have staffing offices, which we currently actually don't have. So we'll be able to actually have a much nicer layout and a better experience for all the animals that come into our care. So we're really excited at the potential possibility of moving to this location. We agreed to purchase this building, but only on the condition that the village grant us the ability to use this space as a shelter. So really hoping for that. And we've also, as Marcy mentioned, we've taken the staff's comments and we have revised our plans to fit exactly what was requested, and we're more than happy to move forward with any other changes requested as well. I will turn this over to Stan if there's any other questions. Do we want me to go through kind of the interior of the building or any questions about that? Is there? Any questions, or you want me to walk through it?
We'll wait till
You're good? Okay.
We'll see what the questions may be.
Okay, it's pretty self-explanatory on there, so. Okay.
Did the architect want to say anything up front, or wait for the questions?
For me to answer, for sure.
All right. This is a public hearing. We had a couple people sign up, but I know one of them was Ms. Weston. There a Beth, come on up. Not sure on the last name, so.
Hi, Beth Messenger, Messinger, and I just wanted to say that I've been...
You gotta swear her in really quick.
Oh, yes, have to swear you in.
Oh,
Swear the testimony you're giving tonight to be the truth.
I do.
Thank you.
So I've lived in Wheeling for 20 years, and for the last 7, I've been a volunteer at Heartland, and I just want to say it's a wonderful organization, and I think it would be a great addition to the city.
Thank you.
Thank you. And a Ms. Lehman? Raise your right hand. Do you swear the testimony you're giving tonight to be the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Cecily Lehman, Cecily Lehman. I've been a resident of Wheeling for 3 years now, my husband 5 years, and I've been a volunteer at Heartland for over a year. I'm also on their Young Professionals Board there. And yeah, I just want to agree that it's a wonderful organization and it would be a great addition to have to Wheeling. We do lots of great work for the animals and for the community. Like they said, we do many different outreach programs with different organizations, and yeah, I think it would be a wonderful addition to our community. That's all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to Commissioner Sprague.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Oh, everyone's gone. Question for staff. Are they required to provide a trash enclosure?
They have a space for a trash container and...
In front of the transformer there, right? Yeah.
Yes. So...
That's sufficient, or?
Yeah, we've determined that that's sufficient because you cannot build an enclosure in that location.
Okay, thank you. The only other thing, that bollard right there in front of the transformer, can that be straightened, or is that something that can be done?
Yes.
Thank you. And then I just have a question about inside. Yeah, I see there's a surgery med room. What is that? What will that be used for?
So we have a relief veterinarian who comes to the shelter to see all of our animals once per week. And during that time, we split her day between surgeries for the animals that we have on site so that they can go into our adoptions program. So that would be half the day doing that, and then the other half day seeing the patients that we have in the shelter.
I see. Thank you. That's all I have.
Yeah, I think it's important to point out that we do not see any outside veterinary patients other than the animals that are within Heartland.
Thank you.
Commissioner Berkey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just have one question, and I was noticing, and maybe I missed it on the landscape plan, but there's one section on the, if you go to the picture with the rear of the property facing south, it's bare. There's a curb there, and no, there's another example there actually just passed. There's a curb there where there's like no grass. It's a lot of just a lot of dirt. Are you going to be going over that with any? Oh, there we go. Is there going to be any sort of planting of anything, or grass, or shrubbery, or anything?
Stan, will you answer that?
I think the area in question there is intended to be a ball run, looking at the site plan, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so the area back, my arrow, back here in the back of the building, this, all back here is going to be ball runs. So that one picture that I was looking at was back here.
Okay. Yeah, there was
Is that
another one
the
that was a
area?
curb, and I think it's on the lower right-hand side.
Oh, down here?
Yeah, go to the right. Right
Yeah.
there, I think.
Oh, over here?
Yeah, that was in one of the pictures. It's just kind of just dirt in there.
The staff did notify us about some landscaping and changes, which we did add to the new site plan.
Okay,
Right, yes.
that's all I had.
Thank you. Commissioner Yednick.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Are we doing site plan and special use, or just special use?
Oh.
Yeah, we should stick with the special use.
Okay, I have some site plan questions, and I'll come back to those. As far as, I think you already, well, this one is just a clarification from staff a little bit. When I noticed the neighboring property land uses, they were saying north was residential. It threw me when I went this and looked at the map, because there's like 2 other industrial buildings plus a couple of vacant lots. The residential is, I don't know, quarter mile at least. So I'm curious how that was defined as residential to the north. This is just for around knowledge, not.
No, that's a typo.
Okay, all right then.
Sorry.
That threw me, because I didn't know if anybody was notified. They're going to
No.
quite a ways away from the dogs. You already answered my one question of whether this was a relocation or expansion, so I guess it's a relocation. Unfortunately, I'm very familiar with that area. I used the vet. The dogs are losing a bunch of big yards, but I'm sure you're gaining other advantages. That's all I have on special use. I'll have a couple questions on minor site plan, please.
Thank you. Commissioner Blanova.
Thank you. No questions on special use. Thank you.
Okay. I had a similar question about the fact that you're completely leaving that Northbrook site. It just seems like that looks so much bigger than this site.
As far as the interior of the building, it's a little.
Well, as far as exercise area
Sure.
and things like that.
Yeah, so we do have an outdoor play area now, like in the front of the shelter, where we do have our kennels and we have our ball runs. But with this location, what we are adding or planning to add is a large indoor space as well, which is going to be helpful for us because, as we know, it's cold a lot of the time throughout the year. The dogs can't be outside. It's raining. It's wet, and actually, the space that we currently have now floods a lot. So we have a drainage issue, and so the dogs don't get to spend time out there after it's rained either. So we're, by moving to a location where we don't flood, we're able to have the 2 ball runs in the back for the animals to get their exercise, but then also add that indoor space, which will be really great for not just the animals to get the exercise, but for adopters to meet the dogs, get some extra exercise, things like that. So we're adding into something else from what we're kind of taking away with the outside.
Seems like you've been there more than 20 years. I've been up and down Milwaukee Avenue a lot in those 20 years, and you've always been there.
Yes.
Any other questions from the commission on the special use? No? Ms. Nye's conditions, you said there was one?
And not on the special use.
Not on the special use, okay. Motion to approve the special use.
So move.
Second.
Yednek, Berkey.
Commissioner Yednak?
Yes.
Commissioner Berkey?
Yes.
Commissioner Villanova?
Yes.
Commissioner Sprague is a yes. Chairman Johnson?
Yes. Don't go far. We need a motion to close the special use hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Sprague, Berkey.
Is that Berkey?
I think it was
Berkey.
Yeah, Berkey.
Yes.
Commissioner Sprague is a yes. Commissioner Berkey?
Yes.
Commissioner Villanova?
Yes.
Commissioner Yednak?
Yes.
Chairman Johnson?
Yes. Well, welcome to the first step of coming to Wheeling.
Thank you.
Now we have PC 21-12, the minor site plan approval for the same location at 586 Palwaukee Drive. Ms. Nye, is anything additional from you?
Yeah, the one proposed condition is all bollards on the west side of the building shall be repainted prior to occupancy.
And the petitioner has agreed to that condition.
Yes.
Very good. All right, we can go right to the commission. Commissioner Sprague again.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have no other questions.
Commissioner Berkey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No other questions.
Commissioner Yednek.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess I might have answered my own question. You call them ball runs, I was calling them dog runs. When I was reviewing this, I made a question was where was the access to the dog run number 1? But when I went out and looked at the property yesterday, it looks like there's a big overhead door. Is that what you're going to use to go in and out of, or are you going to replace that overhead door with a man door?
As far as going into the ball runs?
Going in and out, yeah, from the building, because when I didn't see a door on the drawings, it looked to me like you were going to maybe take the dogs out in the parking lot and bring them back in, and I thought you're going to have a lot of loose dogs.
No, we won't have that.
So the ball run will be accessed through the drive-in door. That's kind of the indoor play area as well they're going to reuse, so it's kind of a multi-purpose area.
So the overhead door you're going to use to go in and out?
Correct.
And not changing that to a man door or anything?
Correct.
Okay, all right, yeah. When I went out there, I just saw I wasn't, from the drawings, I couldn't tell that was an overhead door, but I saw it last night. And then as far as cleaning things up, I know you talked about the landscaping and stuff. It looked like the parking lots were kind of rough, and I know you're putting a lot of money in, maybe not at this point, but is there on the to-do list to maybe resurface or clean up, or at least blacktop the parking lots or anything like that? Is that part of this project or maybe future?
Future, but we can definitely do something with that.
Yeah, I mean, there were maybe some holes that need to be filled, but it did look like it hadn't been, what do they call that? What is the word when you redo this asphalt anyway?
Resurface.
Is it blacktop or, well, no, resurface when you grind it, top, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, grind and.
Yeah, no, I wasn't thinking that, I was thinking blacktop. Yeah, but yeah, if you can put it on the to-do list at some point in time, if you get a big donor. All right.
We will.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Blanova.
No other questions, thank you.
Yeah, and my only concerns were cleaning up the landscape around the building and any parking lot repairs that you can do now. That'd be great. Any other questions from the commission before we move on? And Marcy, you want to repeat that one condition?
Sure. All bollards on the west side of the building shall be repainted prior to occupancy.
You want to talk about straightening that one too, or did you concur?
Yeah, you can add that. Painted and straightened.
The bollard next to the transformer shall be straightened.
All right, motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Berkey and Yednick.
Commissioner Berkey.
Yes.
Commissioner Yednak.
Yes.
Commissioner Blanova.
Yes.
Commissioner Sprague is a yes. Chairman Johnson.
Yes.
So this will proceed to the village board meeting on June 7th.
Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome to the village.
All right. Get through the next one. Get through the next one before we take a break.
I think this, yeah, this will. This will take.
All right, docket number 2021-12, rezoning from the R1 Single Family Zoning District to the R3 Single Family Zoning District at 747 South Elmhurst Road. Mr. Secretary.
Mike, the Kosala?
Very good.
Okay. Property owner seeks a rezoning from R1 Single Family Residential District to R3 Single Family Residential District pursuant to Title 19 zoning of the Wheeling Municipal Code, Chapter 19.14, Ordinance Administration, and associated sections for property located at 747 South Elmhurst Road. A rezoning as defined in the zoning code is an amendment to the map and/or text of the zoning ordinance to effect a change in the nature, density, or intensity of uses allowed in a zoning district and/or on a designated parcel of land area. In order to be considered for rezoning, the petitioner is required to demonstrate through testimony to the Plan Commission at a public hearing that the request meets the standards of the village code, including but not limited to how the proposed zoning is desirable in the village and is compatible with the contributes to the surrounding land uses and zoning. Prior to the public hearing, the petitioner provides written statements meant to show that the request meets the standards for a rezoning as established in Title 19. The commission chairperson will typically direct that these statements be entered into the record with a full reading of them at the hearing. Based upon the testimony and supporting materials submitted, the Plan Commission will make findings in support of or against the petitioner's testimony and report those findings to the village board.
Thank you. Ms. Nyes, can you explain the difference between R1 and R3 for the folks at home?
Yep, that's what I was going to do. So this property is in this square of R1, and they are in a C of R3. So R1 is single-family residential with lots sizes of a minimum 12,000 square feet and the lot width of 75 feet. All of the lots around it, shown in yellow here, are R3. Those are also single-family residential homes with a lot size of 7,000 square feet. So it's just a smaller lot size. It's not multifamily, it's not townhomes, it's not condos. It's still single-family, just a smaller lot size and a smaller lot width. So the proposal is to rezone this isolated square of R1 to R3 to match the surrounding properties.
And it looks like it would be a maximum of 5 lots?
That would probably be the maximum, and right now, this is just the rezoning. When they would like to do the lots, they would have to come back for a plat of subdivision. And at that time, we would look at the lots and the development.
Thank you. And I see the petitioners here, so please raise your right hand. Do you swear the testimony you're giving tonight to be the truth?
Yes, I do.
State your name and spell it.
Sure, Mike DeCosola, M-I-K-E-D-I, capital C-O-S-O-L-A, DeCosola.
And your business address?
Business address is 360 West Schick Road, Suite 23, Bloomingdale, Illinois, 60108.
Thank you. Please state your project.
Sure. So we're going from an R1 to an R3, so that way we can match up with the community's land, you know, in terms of the residential lots. They have a 60 wide by approximately 120-something feet deep. So this property in particular, because it's half-acre minimum requirements, we're trying to get it to conform with the neighborhood. And so the future plan is to make it 5 lots with the same 60 wide, but it does have a deeper back lot, so it goes to 141 deep. So the benefit is it's going to conform and look just like the residences, you know, that we're surrounded with, but it's going to be single-family residential home, 2-story, custom homes.
All right. This is a public hearing. I don't believe we had anyone else sign up other than yourself. So we'll go to the commission and we will start.
Chairman Johnson, can you make sure that there's no one in the public who didn't sign up because there are people waiting outside? Because they can still speak.
Waving hands, okay. Come on up, state your name. I gotta swear you in.
My name is John Carl, K-A-R-L.
Swear the testimony you're giving tonight to be the truth.
Yes, I do.
Okay. Mr. Carl it was?
Yes.
And your address?
745 Gregor Lane.
Thank you.
Which is right next to the property for 31 years. So I'm glad to see this happening. It's about time, and it's been kind of an eyesore lately. Well, most of the time. It was grandfathered in, and it's been like just tore down parts and stuff like that. You probably have all drove by it, by the high school and stuff like that. We first moved here, we thought they were going to do that after the owner died and moved on, but that didn't happen. So I'm glad to see this is coming through. The only things you probably have to mean at the next meeting you have to go through is the plot survey or what you're going to do as far as the lots. We understand I talked to the gentleman here and I talked to Marcy, and I got response very quickly and pleasant, and they said they were going to put 4 homes on this property, same size ours are, maybe a little bit bigger, because there is a lot of yard space back there. And he said he was looking into the sewer systems there and the well water they're running out of there. And one of the concerns in the neighborhood is the street. It's a one-way, one-lane street from my house out to the high school. It's a dead end on my side of the street. It goes a one lane, one way out towards the high school. And the way I look at it now, see, that's my house on the left-hand side there. There's the 2 dead-end things right there. So if you're going out to 83, you can't usually probably have a 2-way coming in because the main entrance of high school, it'd be 2 lefts facing each other. Left going to high school, left coming in there if it was 2-way. So I don't think that can happen. That'd be so we don't know if he's going to widen the street. How the sewer is going to be, but that's the only concern a lot of us have is about the traffic flow in and out. It's fine like it is now, I say it is. Better looking one way in both ways. And there's no problem there. And the only other things I think you probably have to come back for another meeting is the landscaping problems and stuff like that. They'll probably address that later. The sidewalks, curbs. I think he's doing this project. I think he's, if I'm mistaken, he's doing the street and the sidewalk and the sewers. In my yard, personally, I have the sewer system that comes from that property. He doesn't have sewers, and I have a thing in my backyard in the corner. So I can't use my yard. If I want to put a shed up, I can't. It's an open drainage system that goes through our neighborhood underground to the retention pond onto the water tower.
Could you speak up to the mic?
Yeah, I'm sorry. It goes that way. So it's an eyesore in my yard too. I'm losing a quarter of my yard because it's this open sewer. The village has maintained it as far as any problems with the broken pipes. It's going a couple times, but I've maintained the other things to it. The cutting the grass, landscaping around it made it look nice. I actually made it look like a little, for my grandson, I make it like a little river coming through. So it's kind of neat, but it floods pretty good back there sometimes off that property in the rear. It's because it's not graded properly. But other than that, my neighbors are here too, so I don't know if anyone else wanted to speak, but I think that's about the nut of it. But I'm glad to see it happening. It'll help with the look of Wheeling, especially if you have people visiting Wheeling High School and they look across the street.
Yeah.
And they go, what's that? I mean, because people think, right next to, I have that cement pad right there. It looks like there's a helicopter pad next to me. It just, it does, people like, what is it? What was that for? So that was a garage, so it'd be nice just to get that done. So I'd like to appreciate the board for listening to me, and
Thank you.
I judge your good judgment, so thank you. If I don't
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that wanted to speak on it?
My name is Bill Coleman.
You swear the testimony you're giving tonight to be the truth?
Yes, I do. My name is Bill Coleman, Coleman. I live at 756 Gregor, straight across from this field here. And I don't know why they don't leave it at R1.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what was your statement?
So what?
So you want it to stay in R1?
Why not? All the rest of the buildings in that neighborhood is R1.
No, they're all R3.
According to this paper, is R1.
Everything in yellow up there is an R3.
All right.
Okay. Anyone else want to speak on this? All right, we'll go to Commissioner Yednek first.
I'm sure we'll have a lot of questions when we look at how they subdivide it, but for the rezoning, I have no questions. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Berkey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No questions.
Commissioner Blanova.
Thank you, no questions.
Mr. Sprague.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Hopefully, the residents' concerns will be addressed when the improvements are made, once they start developing. Otherwise, I'm glad to see that this is going to change and be improved. That's all I have.
All right, engineering.
We don't have any I mean, obviously this is kind of separating from, this is just the zoning, the rezoning. We obviously kind of take a look at the plat, but that's kind of outside the purview of this review. But we don't really have any comments as it relates to the rezoning of this property.
Okay, thank you. And I had no further. We'll obviously, when you come back with the plat, we'll have some more discussion. Any other questions from the commission?
No.
Ms. Nyes, any conditions on this?
No conditions.
Then I would entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Sprague and Blanova.
Commissioner Sprague is a yes. Commissioner Blanova.
Yes.
Commissioner Berkey.
Yes.
Commissioner Yednak.
Yes.
Chairman Johnson.
Yes.
So this will go in front of the village board on June 7th.
Thank you.
That's going to be their busy night, huh?
Good luck, thanks.
And we need a motion to close this public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Yednak.
Yes.
Commissioner Berkey.
Yes.
Commissioner Blanova.
Yes.
Commissioner Sprague is a yes. Chairman Johnson.
Yes. All right, I think before we get to the next one, we're going to take a little comfort break. 5 minutes.
You need a motion to take a break?
Yeah, motion to go into recess.
Motion to go into recess.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Still chatting down there.
Oh, yeah, no, I was using my phone. Yeah.
All right, calling the meeting back to order. And we're up to docket 2021-17, amendment to previously approved planned unit development at Prairie Park Condo Development. Mr. Secretary.
Smith Family Developers seek an amendment to the approved Prairie Park Condominium Plan Unit Development granted by ordinance number 2003-3721 and further amended by ordinance number 2010-4552 as required under Title 19 zoning of the Wheeling Municipal Code, Chapter 19-09, Plan Unit Developments and associated sections to allow for a substantial change to the approved development plans for non-easement Area 3 and adjoining common areas for the construction of 18 single-family townhomes located at 70 Prairie Park Drive, which is zoned R4 multifamily residential. A special use as defined in the zoning code is a use of parcel of land that requires review and consideration before approval due to the potential for negative impacts on surrounding properties. In order to be considered for a special use, the petitioner is required to demonstrate through testimony to the Plan Commission at a public hearing that the request meets the standards of the village code, including but not limited to how the proposed use will not damage the enjoyment or use of the surrounding properties. Prior to the public hearing, the petitioner provides written statements meant to show that the request meets the standards for special uses established in Title 19. The Commission chairperson will typically direct that these statements be entered into the record without a full reading of them at the hearing. Based upon the testimony and supporting material submitted, the Plan Commission will make findings in support of or against the petitioner's testimony and report those findings to the village board.
Thank you.
Mr. Secretary, was that a special use reading or is that the amendment to a PUD?
That was special use.
This is an amendment to a PUD?
Right, but Steve?
PUD is authorized by special use.
Okay, there we go. Thank you. Just wanted to clarify in case there's any confusion.
Thanks.
I was like, I heard it and it's like.
Let's see, Commissioner Yadnak, you abstained from this in the concept review. I assume you're doing the same?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, I will for the reasons stated previously when we reviewed this project last time.
All right, thank you. Marcy, anything on this?
Yes. So, let's see, let me get to my picture here. Okay. So the project is a lot officially identified. I'm just going to try and explain this here. Is a lot here in the Prairie Park at Wheeling subdivision. It's non-easement area 3. And now that the development plans differ, that it's going to be 18 two-story townhomes instead of one 7-story condominium, it requires an amendment to the PUD. So that's why we're here tonight. And I just wanted to briefly review the staff comments that we have provided to the applicant. So one of the main comments is that a subdivision plat is required, and right now, non-easement area 3 is under the ownership of the petitioner. Oh, where's my thing here? Which is shown in red. And the development falls outside that non-easement area, which is shown in yellow. And so the actual plat has to be amended so that the buildable area, or so that we can modify the buildable area of non-easement area 3 and grant access for the new townhomes by the Prairie Park Homeowners Association. So the plat is one of the issues, and a second issue was about the pedestrian path. Staff had requested a pedestrian crossing be provided for the townhomes to the internal sidewalk that circles the stormwater pond. This is to provide consistency with the development. It's the same as with condos. It's something that was brought up. One other item was with regards to the northern townhome units. There's a pretty significant grade change at the rear of the property, the north end of the property, because of the diversionary channel. And they're proposing a 12-foot tall solid privacy wall between each unit. And staff has suggested to provide this screenings through landscaping such as arborvitae, which would have a small footprint but could provide year-round screening. And and then the other landscaping question or just issue was that there was potentially, we had asked for some landscaping along the diversionary channel so that there was some visual indicator of a property line between the northern units and the actual diversionary channel, since there's no obvious distinction between there. A photometric lighting plan was not provided, so we were not able to analyze that. And there were some comments from engineering that Kyle can discuss if the commissioners would like to hear that. And then if the commissioners do find that the petitioner has satisfied the requirements for granting of the amendment, then we did have 3 conditions that we were requesting. Oh, and one more thing, in the staff memo, there were 4 departures for the PUD that were required. So in a PUD, the petitioner is allowed to request deviations from the underlying zoning districts, which are the R4 multifamily residential districts. And so those 4 deviations were regarding the minimum parking dimensions for the driveway parking and the guest parking, a reduction in the building separation from 30 feet to 10 feet, to allow bicycle parking to be inside the townhome garages rather than installing bike racks, and a reduction in the rear yard setback from 30 feet to 8 feet.
Okay. Mr. Shapiro.
Chairman Johnson.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear the testimony you're giving tonight to be the truth?
I do. Good evening, Dan. My name is Dan Shapiro. I'm here on behalf of the petitioner. It's good to see all of you. It really is. I haven't been cooped up in COVID for a year. It's good to be here in person. With me tonight is Jamie Smith from Smith Family, Steve Klump, our architect, and where are you? Cliff Toberman, our engineer. We'd like to make a brief presentation, and of course, if there are any questions, we'd be happy to take the questions. So, as was just introduced by Marcy, and by the way, I want to thank staff, Steve and Marcy. They've been terrific in kind of giving us some direction and really good input to what I think would make a even better project than what was before you last fall. So this was a PUD. We're seeking amendment to the PUD. As some of you may know, there was a planned 5th tower back in 2002. That was the PUD. A lot has changed in 18 years, some of which would include a Great Recession and a global pandemic. And with that, markets change. So we're here not for that 5th tower. We're here for 18 townhomes, responding to what the market is and responding to some of the global market changes that we've experienced over the last many, many years. We've submitted to you a lot of stuff, and we appreciate staff allowing us to submit some minor tweaks to the plans recently. What we also submitted late is our plat of subdivision. We recognize that and we apologize for that. We do not expect you to be able to thoroughly vet that tonight because it wasn't here on time. But we would ask that you consider everything else and allow us to come back at final with the final plat of subdivision, or perhaps make any recommendation you have tonight conditioned upon a plat. As you know, this matter was before this commission as well as the board late last year. We were enthused about what we thought was positive feedback, and we're also encouraged by what we feel to be a pretty clean staff report. I know Marcy identified some things, and we're ready to address those tonight. But I think given the project, we're pretty encouraged by the staff report. I want to address a couple of things very briefly, and then I'll hand it over to Jamie. This is an R4 project. The surrounding zoning is multifamily, except for to the north, which is vacant. That's been addressed by staff. So it really is consistent with not only what's there, what is around it, but as well as the comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan contemplates a development such as this. So we're pleased that those land use guidelines and principles are matching up with what we have before you. It is of a similar, though slightly more dense, or more dense than the Prairie Park condos, not by much, but the density is about 16 units an acre, and a little over 16 units an acre, and I believe it's just slightly more than what's already there. With regards to some of the issues in the staff report, again, we're consistent with the zoning and the comp plan. There's ample parking for these units. I believe that was recognized in the staff report. There was some there was some note of the location in the number of handicap spaces, which we've adjusted very easily on a new site plan, and that's something that I think was easily tweaked by us. We have complete authority on behalf of the Homeowners Association to appear before you. Way back when this was platted, the main roadway granted a joint shared access between what would be here, at that time the development condo tower, and the association. So I just want to make that clear, that there's already a joint shared access roadway that's been platted and recorded. I believe one of the comments was that staff didn't have a turning radius. I reviewed our file and our submission, and I know we filed it as early as the 2nd. It's possible it was not reviewed, but we have another copy, another hard copy, which would show the turning radius for large vehicles. I may be off on that date, but I know that's something that perhaps was overlooked. One of the other things that was discussed in the staff report is the height difference, and I know it was discussed also at this meeting, maybe at the concept meeting. As a reminder, we have a clubhouse that currently exists that's not very tall. It's a one-story clubhouse that currently exists. We have 5-story structures immediately to the south, and also single-family immediately to the south. So there's already a diversity in height there. And if you stand in the middle of the development, you can see the diversity in height. So these two-story townhomes would add to what's already there in terms of the diversity of height. With regards to some engineering issues, I believe there's extra detention and comp storage. There was a comment in the staff report about soil borings. The first soil borings showed that there was no problem. And at final engineering, final plat, of course, we would do another soil boring, but we're very confident that those soil borings are acceptable. With regards to the location of the structure, I confirmed with our engineer and our architect as late as yesterday that none of the construction will be in the floodplain. We're above the floodplain and the floodway. So I just want to make those comments. And then to address a couple of the comments that Marcy just said, landscaping on the north, we understand that that can be a condition, but we also provided some an amended plan that shows the additional landscaping on the north. We get that. The 12-foot wall, we will remove it and put the appropriate buffering or the appropriate sized wall there, whatever the case may be. The pedestrian path or crossing, that's not any condition that gives us any heartburn. A photometric plan was submitted as late as today. We apologize for that, but that's in your hands. And you will see that the photo plan, which again, we're happy to come back at final, does not show any excess spillage. So I will now turn it over to Jamie and let him walk through a little bit more of the site. Thank you for your patience and for listening to us.
Hi, how are you all tonight? Thank you for being here for us, and big thank you to staff. A lot of information over a short amount of time, and we appreciate Steve and all the work that staff has done.
Sorry, Jamie. Chairman Justin, were you sworn in when he did it?
Sorry. No.
Do you swear the testimony you're giving tonight to be the truth?
Yes.
Yes. Everybody.
Sorry about that. Once again, thank you all for being here. Marcy, if you could please pull up the site plan. Or is it Art? I can do it here, I guess.
Oh.
This is fine. Thank you. So we're proposing an 18-unit project located on the last remaining pad on the north side of Prairie Park. To the west, you have the 100 building, and the east, you have the 40 building. It's going to consist of 18 units, 3 units per building, 6 building rows, one to the south, one to the north, with a newly created private road known as Prairie Court. The reason we front-loaded the garages towards Prairie Court was so that we didn't ruin the aesthetics when people are enjoying the pond and walking around the central area of Prairie Park, which does get quite a bit of use, which is nice. People enjoy the amenities there. That was one of the concerns some of the residents brought up recently on a Zoom meeting we held, and we addressed that with them. Some people thought it might be facing the pond itself, which is not the case, as you can see here. To reiterate a point that Mr. Shapiro made earlier, this site as a whole does have a lot of differentiation throughout it. When you're walking through the site, not only do you see the 7-story, the 5-story, and the 1-story buildings, but you also will see, as you walk and drive through the site, the 2-story single-family homes directly south. So I do want to re-point that out, that there's a large amount of differentiation. Could you pull up an aerial, please?
I don't know if I have an area.
It's okay.
Oh,
so
sorry.
directly, I just want to point out some surrounding areas to Prairie Park as a whole, the 17 acres that it sits on. So directly west of the 100 and 115 buildings, you have a 7-acre parcel zoned for multifamily use. To the south, once again, the same neighborhood with the single-family 2-story buildings, and directly north, you have our 17-acre parcel, which is zoned for mixed use, based on a number of different users that have either come to present before Board or Plan Commission, or have at least had discussions with Plan Commission and the Board. We do anticipate that northern property at least being partially residential, or in my opinion, probably being completely a residential use site. I know there was some concern regarding the transition from this last pad to the northern property. And I also know that that north property, that section there closest to that last pad, a lot of that is a wetlands area, so that particular area would not actually be developed. The HOA board has voted and given their blessing for us to present this before the village as a concept. Access has already been granted, as discussed earlier by Mr. Shapiro, through the original plat of subdivision. We hope to wrap up this agreement with the HOA in the near future. Most likely terms would be based on a master association created for the common elements cost, and then a brand new association form for the townhomes themselves, and the new Prairie Court that the townhomes would be responsible for requiring, and everything encompassing that new plat. I do apologize that you didn't receive that until Monday. As Mr. Shapiro said, we're hopeful that that can possibly be a condition or, wait for final PUD. But we're confident this is a terrific project. We'd like to see the project completed. Some of the concerns, we held a Zoom with all the residents that were welcome to join did. We had probably 37 residents join the Zoom. Some of the concerns were, I've also spoken with different residents via email, phone call, text message. One of the concerns was traffic. Obviously, 18 townhomes will be significantly less amount of car traffic than a 70-unit building would be. The number of cars will be significantly less. We do plan to cater to the same demographics that we did previously with the condo buildings. Typically, they average about 1.5 cars per unit. And I'd be happy to address any questions later. And I'm going to hand it off to our architect, Steve Klump. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Stephen Klump, Architects Unlimited, right here in Wheeling. Jamie has some handouts of some changes that we've done since we got the staff report on Friday, that we've addressed pretty much everything with a solution to pretty much every question. Starting with the site plan, one of the easiest things to do was to shift the handicapped accessible parking space more centrally located to the project, which then restores 3 spaces back to the northwest corner of the rear parking lot behind Building 40. In addressing the north boundary, we are proposing for some shrubs to indicate the corners of the units and the back property line, but we're also adding decorative gravel on a weed-free landscape fabric with an edging that designates the property line, so there's a clear definition between the two. And that diversionary channel, being that it's 70 feet wide, and our setback right now is 8 feet, the nearest private property would be to the north, which essentially gives a 78-foot setback to a private property. The parking, the garage driveways, we do designate as 18 feet. However, the garage doors, because of the thickness of the stud wall, gives it another 6 inches to the garage door. So essentially, we have 18'6" on that. We do need the 18 feet on the guest parking, just because we have a sidewalk that goes between that and the unit that needs to be 3 feet wide. And instead of having a 9-unit row house that would be 300 feet long, we are breaking it up into 3 units with a 10-foot wide courtyard instead of a party wall that would have been there. And we do have a 2-hour rated fire protection around the whole perimeter of the building. That's pretty much covers that part of it. If you move on to the second sheet that we handed out, that is our photometric plan with both the building mounted light fixtures and a site plan that shows that we're adding 2 pole lights that are the same pole lights as what goes around the Prairie Park Drive perimeter. And the light fixtures on the building, we are planning on matching, as you can see on the right-hand side of the sheet, the fixtures that are on the condo building. So that, if you move on to the elevation, it shows that the north elevation facing the diversionary channel, where we deemed in discussion with Jamie, we felt that it wasn't necessary to have that previously proposed 12-foot high wall where the 2 stairs come together, because the actual living space of the deck is separated significantly. But where it's marked in yellow, we are proposing a 6-foot privacy screen that is very similar to what you can see in the photo that the condo building has. We're also adding a fence on the west elevation. You can see at the courtyard to protect anyone from that 1'9" drop there. And in reviewing with Cliff, our civil engineer, we do have soil borings that show that the existing pond and the adjacent water table that runs through a gravel layer will be 4 feet below our proposed lowest basement slab. And besides that, we do have a protected flood elevation that goes 2 feet above the base flood elevation. So, and we are more than 10 feet back from the line of the base flood elevation of the diversionary channel, which I believe we discussed with FEMA or reviewed their proposal, and we don't really have to do the protected, any real protected flood conditions. So the other sheets, I think Cliff can probably address those. Those are the plat issues, one with the showing the overall site, and the one with a more focused view of how the units are separated, and then also the fire department access, truck access. So, okay.
So Cliff will be available for questions. We are all available for questions. So I think that would be our conclusion to our presentation. And if anyone has anything they would like to offer or ask of us, we're here.
All right. Let's start off by asking for some feedback from the fire department.
We recently looked at the petitioner's submittal for the fire apparatus turning analysis, and in a recent report that we sent to community development, we have concerns with the turning radius exhibit. It shows the fire apparatus, either the body or wheel track, mostly the body. There are a number of areas where it basically leaves the roadway and goes over the curb line into the grassy areas, sidewalks, and there are a number of areas, a couple areas rather, where in order to make the turning movement, you move significantly into the oncoming traffic lanes, which is not always atypical for the larger fire apparatus making turns within a roadway, especially in a smaller subdivision. But that, at this point, would be an issue that we would have a concern with. The other items that were in the previous submittal that the petitioner mentioned that they responded to or provided answers recently. There are probably some adjustments that we can make with the hydrant locations. They've come back with some of the minor modifications and addressed the comments that we had in the previous submittal. So that's pretty much where we're at this point.
What about access on the north side?
The north side, the only thing we're going to get back there, probably it's ground ladders anyways, and depending on exactly where the actual breaks in the elevation changes is going to make that a little bit difficult. You know, if we've got flat grade for 5-6 feet off of the building, you'd be able to get a 28-foot ladder in there for the second story. But once you get off of that, it's, you know, depending on the grade change, you're going to lose some height in the ladders.
All right. Okay. Last question for you, Ron. The spacing between the buildings, where they're requesting 10-foot separation?
Well, they're asking for 10 foot, but there's a location in between each of the buildings where they're significantly less than 10 feet based on the overhangs of the roof at the second floor level, and then the canopy over the entryway into the unit. So I think that they're only about 5 feet, give or take a little bit at that point.
That's not even COVID compliant.
I'd like to comment on that. We are proposing fire-treated plywood in all those situations and a 2-hour wall for the exterior. So we can...
Understood, but again, you also still have, even with the 10-foot, and you still have openings with windows on those walls in this particular plan that you've presented. So you're going to have a hard time getting a 2-hour rating in a window. And I don't think you want to put rolling fire shutters in.
Okay, I was under the impression that the windows, there's an allowance for...
There is a section, I don't know the exact particulars, but there is some code verbiage related to that.
We'll look at that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Antor. Kyle, anything from an engineering standpoint before we get to the commission?
Sure. Obviously, you guys have saw the list of comments that we had, so if you have a question about a particular one, let me know. But one of the items that you guys mentioned was soil borings. Water table is obviously one aspect that we're looking at, as far as floodplain concern and the basements of these units. But we're also looking at the structural integrity of the soil below grade there. Obviously, the diversionary channel has a pretty steep slope that goes down, I don't know off the top of my head, maybe 9 or 10 feet. You're going to have a 2-story, or I guess if you include the basement, 3-story townhomes on there, less than 8 feet from the edge of that slope. We just want to make sure that structurally that base material on the ground there, at the end of the day, we don't want these foundations sloughing into the diversionary channel. That's kind of the big concern that we have. And obviously, with such close proximity to the flood zone, it sounds like we've already kind of covered, there's the 10-foot separation, the 2-foot freeboard, which is great. We just want to make sure that because 2 of these basements actually have their slab below the base flood elevation, which if you have that freeboard and you have that separation is generally fine. We just want to make sure that the, what's what I'm looking for here? I guess the porosity of this soil there does not allow water to kind of go through the soil as opposed to over. Obviously, the freeboard protects from water going over the top. We just want to make sure water does not infiltrate through the soil into these basements, because obviously some of these basements are below the base flood elevation. So that was kind of some of the background behind that particular comment.
And I assume those things we can address at final engineering, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And obviously, it was kind of just a kind of a talking point for us,
Yes,
for obviously bring this up now so you guys can address it moving forward.
Yep.
But yeah, it doesn't have, final engineering, we can kind of look through some of these items.
And if I could ask Cliff to come here to talk a little bit about turning radii.
So I sort of have the same problem when you look at the turning exhibits. What you have to follow, we use auto turn in our fire truck turning exhibits for a variety of villages. So what's always hard to do, especially on a small sheet like we have, when you have a big sheet, you could sort of see the truck tires, okay, which is the most important. As when we do the templates, we ensure that those tires remain on the roadway. And then they show the edge of the truck, which appears if you're next to a curb, close to curb, the edge of the truck is maybe just right at the back of curb, a little over. So when you look at this, and I have a big screen when I work from, I've got a screen like an 85-inch in front of me. So I'm always carefully studying that, because I'm like you're trying to look at some plan. Are we sure about this? So if you look carefully at that, it does remain within the curb line, so it stays within the roadway. We're not going over curbs. There is an opposing traffic. I think there's no way to avoid that for any of I mean, I was the original designer of Prairie Park, you guys, myself, Smith family, architects, so forth. So, I've been working on this for 20 years, and this project in all kind of forms and facets, et cetera. And, we're always very careful to ensure doing the best we can on radius, and those are, very good radius that we've put on those, on the entrances through the aisles there, or between the number 40 building and the number 100. So it's sort of hard to see. That's what, my first inclination was like you. When I first saw it and looked at it, we reviewed it, but I just want to make sure those tires stayed on that roadway.
No, I understand that, and it appears that curb to curb, which would be your wheelbase, or the outer edge of the wheels, that is more within the roadway, although there are a few spots that, again, a smaller drawing, it may or may not be on the curb line where you have the radius curb going up from the roadway, but your wall-to-wall dimension, which is going to be the outer edges of the vehicle, is going to go over the curb line into the, we'll call it the landscape area, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, it's getting close a little bit to land.
But, once you get into the winter season with snow plowing and the snow removal, you now have mounds that are up in that area, and, other obstructions sometimes, such as street lights, utility poles, things of that nature. I don't believe there were any of those in that area. But, the vehicle itself is actually leaving the roadway to a point, as the drawing shows, through the AutoCAD, or AutoTurn rather, exhibit.
So I have a question. It's really the existing road we've maintained as you come in from the east off Prairie Drive. It's the same, I'll say this, it's the same roadway width that's out there today. We have not modified that width.
Correct.
Have you had to go out there? I don't know. I was just wondering. I'm sure you have.
I've been out there a few times.
How is that managed? That's just
the difference is, though, you used to have, for the original proposal, you had a distance between Prairie Park Drive and the rear fire lane parking lot access of, we'll just make a number up, of say 100 feet. You're now putting Prairie Court halfway between those two roadways at 50 feet. So it's now making a turning movement in a shorter amount of roadway on the north-south leg before you have to turn to go down Prairie Court from either direction of travel, whether you're on the access road behind the apartment condo buildings or in the front of the condo buildings. So that's the significant difference.
Let me take one more. So so I'm looking at, as you just described, as you turn in from the east, now you're heading for Prairie Court. So there is a nice radius. So we put a nice radius. We expanded the radius a little bit to help what you described, the turn into Prairie Court. So as I look at that, when I look at this overall turning template, it almost looks like the most constraining is when you first pull into the main road between building, the 40 building on the east and then it's pretty wide, it's honestly, we do this a lot, well, turning templates, we're not driving trucks, but it seemed to me, compared to what I see all the time doing a lot of templates, that this seemed reasonable with the turn. It seemed like a reasonable turn coming into Prairie. My interpretation, anyway, from all these templates we do for many, many villages, for many different trucks and so forth.
And again, the computer hits the turn perfectly every time.
Oh, you said it. And believe me, I hear you. I'm with you on that. But then you have experienced drivers too. So we notice too in our truck turning, when we do truck turning, believe it or not, we'll show, holy cow, they're just making some dock work. But the truck drivers, probably like fire truck driver, they're so good at what they do, the very experienced ones, they make our templates seem actually pretty conservative sometimes. I've noticed that at times. So I'm always attuned to that when I go around the country or in the city. I'm always looking at this because now I can appreciate when I see a truck doing their intersection turns or your fire trucks. Well, now I'm more careful and I watch that.
Again, that assumes you hit it at exactly the right point to make your turn and you don't miss it by a foot, even with a good driver.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, it's the key to start. You're right. You are right. And we find that doing that in the simulations too. Yes, you're. Well, anyway.
Okay.
That's what I wanted. Thank you.
So, again, this is a public hearing, and we did have a couple people sign up to speak on this item. Sherwin Begin. State your name and spell it for the record, and I gotta swear you in. You swear the testimony
Yes.
you're giving tonight to be the truth. Thank you.
My name is Sherwin Began, Begoun. I'm a long-term resident of Prairie Park. Thank you, Chief. I spoke with Mark Smith and I told him right directly to him that I wasn't coming here to rain on his parade. I wanted to speak about the economics of putting in 16 units in place of 72. Irrespective of whatever they do with the bricks and everything else, it's still going to change the nature of the community. And while the architect is here, I'd like to thank him because this is Prairie Park is, as constituted on the brochure, is a damn beautiful place to live, and people who live there are very happy about it. But putting in townhomes changes the nature of the place, and 240 unit owners expected this when they bought. Now, with respect to the economy, I know that this planning committee will report to the village board. And what I want to say is that the assessed value of the townhomes might reach $1 million. The assessed value of a fifth condominium building will be $3 million. So that means there's 3 times as much real estate tax for the county, the school district, the village, utilizing the same space. So I'd like the planning committee to talk to the village board and implore them to bury the hatchet, make peace, let bygones be bygones, and ask them to reinstate the TIF money that the developer expected when he spent $500,000 or more to make all these drawings for the 5th building. And all those drawings are still available, and they're ready for completion, and that's a slam dunk for the village. Thank you very much.
Felicia Smith. You swear the testimony you're giving tonight to be the truth?
Yes. Do you want me to go ahead and state my name and spell it?
Please.
Felicia Smith, Felicia, Smith, Smith. I've lived at Prairie Park for slightly over 14 years, and I just want to state that Mark Smith and his team has definitely developed a beautiful complex for people to live. His design for the townhomes are wonderful and beautiful. I do have concerns about these homes being built at Prairie Park. It will change, just like Sherwin said, the complex and the feel of the community, and it doesn't match those original plans that I was anticipating when I purchased 14 years ago. It was terrible that the owners also at that time had to wait for the clubhouse to be finished, and then we also had to sit and wait for years and years for that 5th building to be finished. There's a chance that with having townhomes being built, because people sometimes like to squeeze in a lot of people, more families will be there, more children will be in that community. Big concern for after the construction's done is having a new association join the current association, which will most likely bring concerns. We currently have concerns within the association, such as people not parking in the visiting spots at the right amount of time and things like that. The trash, dog owners, problems with the clubhouse, concerns that might take place with the new development of the townhomes would be things like the driveways having unappealing amounts of cars parked at them at all times that we have to look at. People will have to walk if they want to have the longer route around the property. They'll walk through those townhomes, having to see all of that. The parking spots, if people have more people who can drive in the house that are living there, they might overflow onto our parking spots. The garbage cans being left out. The fact that we're going to be walking through and the homes are at eye level, so we could possibly see the folks on their patio more intense than we do for the people that are on the balconies. The eye level noise as we're walking around. What's going to happen with the snow and the snow removal, as sometimes we even have issues with what we currently have on the property. Concerns with the association dues and making sure that those association dues are sufficient, that they'd be coming and paying from those townhomes to use our facilities, so that our dues that we currently are paying don't continue to go up. They unfortunately went up when the additional buildings were built, and then also once the clubhouse was finished and we were all using it and things like that, and more money was needed. Also, as a sales point, how do you even talk about having the clubhouse to potential buyers when for the last 14 months, due to the quarantine, even with things opening up, we have not been able to use our clubhouse. At this point, we still don't know when or if we will get to use it. Another concern I have is there will be more construction. Lots of construction. The property that I look onto facing north on Lake Cook, when I bought, beautiful sunflower field. That sunflower field, a couple years later, was destroyed. That then became a place where dirt was being moved in and out. At that point, construction companies were coming and they were not following the ordinances of wheeling. At that point, police were called multiple times to come and tell them to please stop because the noise was so loud. Then, after several years, then we had the bridge just built over the creek. Same thing again. The companies who were building it didn't follow those ordinances of the construction laws, and the police had to be called again due to the noise disturbance. The same 2 buildings that are right over there will be impacted with this built. The residences will be disturbed with the construction companies in the hopes that they will follow the ordinances, but unfortunately, based on witnessing what's happened, it leaves little hope, unfortunately. The other concern I have is if the units are built in groups of 6, I believe that's what we were informed the other evening, what happens if their money runs out? Will we just be left with 6 units that are built, and then the rest will be more mud piles and dirt piles? I know we were also told the other night that our property taxes should not be impacted. I want to know if that's true. Also, I do know that within the town of Wheeling, some people are valued at 2% and 3%. And how does that work out? I do appreciate you listening to me this evening. I hope you consider my concerns, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else from the public here that would like to speak on this? Nope. All right. Did you want to respond to any of that before we move on to the commission? Okay. let's go to Commissioner Sprague.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, gentlemen. Your drawings of your buildings are beautiful. The buildings look great. I think you've done a nice job on them. With that said, though, I think your footprint on the lot that you're on is just too big for what the size of the lot is. It shows by asking for deviances in setbacks on the diversionary channel side, on the Prairie Park Road side. You want the buildings to be 10 feet apart instead of 30 feet apart. You want parking spaces to be smaller than code. And you want tighter radiuses for the fire department than what the fire department is comfortable with. That all spells one thing. It's just too large for the area that you're trying to put it in. So what I would like to do is recommend to the chairman that he poll the commission to see if there's a majority on continuing this so that it gives you, the petitioner, time to come back to us with something that will actually fit on this lot and give us the setbacks that we call for and the parking spaces that we call for and the radiuses for the fire trucks and so on.
Before you do that, Commissioner Sprague, if I may have a couple minutes to respond?
Sure.
Is that okay? Yeah. Mr. Chairman? So we asked for a limited number of departures for this PUD. The fact that it's a PUD allows for us to ask for departures. That's the basic intent of a PUD, where you ask for departures in order to be able to have some flexibility. I've been doing this for a while, and perhaps you have too. I would not characterize the 4 departures that we're asking for as overly broad. With regards to the radius, turning radius, to me, I think it's just a matter of these guys getting together and looking at a big plan in the same room. With regards to the 10-foot departures, we've addressed that through firewalls and prevention. There are some open issue, I guess, with respect to windows that I'm sure, Chief, you'll go back and look at too to get clarification. But I would discourage getting a straw vote for density because it is very much consistent with what's already there. It's a little more dense. That's it, a little more dense. It is not 14 to 28 or 14 to 21, it's 14 to 16. I would characterize that as a small increase. We're trying to address the parking, Steve addressed the parking, that only a few number of spaces need that 6-inch adjustment. Not all of them, just a couple on the guest parking. So with respect, and I get it, I've been a plan commissioner, I've been there. I get what you're saying, but I do not believe that the departures that we're asking for are significant.
Mr. Sprague?
When you include the back stairs in the back on the north side, you're 1 foot 7 inches, 7¼ inches away from the property line. You can't even walk around the stairs without going over the property line.
I disagree with that.
Why do you disagree with it?
Because we don't show any, we don't show that.
These numbers are taken right off your plans, your drawing.
Commissioner, I don't want to get an argument. I'm going to turn it over to our architect, who will be able to address it a little bit easier and certainly in a more qualified manner than I can.
We don't have walls around the decks, so you'd be able to walk underneath the decks.
The stairways?
The stair, well, there's also space between the stairway and the wall, but I understand where you're coming from.
Thank you. So you're asking for a deviance of 8 feet on the north side, and your plans show 7 foot 8 inches.
If that's what it is, then it's 7 foot 8.
We're certainly not trying to be sneaky here. Thank you for bringing that to our attention. It's a difference of 4 inches. Thank you. We're not trying to be sneaky in any way.
Well, I still stand by my opinion that because of all these deviances,
departure,
departure,
yes,
variance, whatever you want to call it.
Sure.
It's just evident, it makes it plain and simple that it's just too big for that lot.
Oh, it is 8 feet. You want, will you?
I see the dimension of 2 foot 6, 3 foot 6, and 1 foot 6, which is 8 feet.
Okay, well then you have a conflict because there's a 7/8 measurement on one of your plans.
Thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Anyways,
I respect your opinion, Commissioner, but
yes,
suffice it to say we disagree.
Well, that's my recommendation.
You have more
Yes.
questions?
Yes, I do.
If we go ahead.
Okay.
Well, no, hang on. Mallory, how do we?
Well, as I have mentioned before, the petitioner has the right to proceed on the plans that they have proposed. So if they're not willing to consider reducing the footprint, and Mr. Shapiro is correct that PUDs do allow for flexibility. So seeing variations or departures from the code is common. Obviously, Commissioner Sprague, you've raised issues that you feel that the amount of the separation is causing you concern. However, they do have the right to proceed on the plan as proposed, and then you can consider that, consider it as proposed and additional questions, and obviously vote on that issue. From my understanding, based on Mr. Shapiro's initial comments, it does not seem like they are open to changing their plans, and they'd want to proceed on what is proposed.
This plan has been vetted by this commission. It's been on a concept basis, by the board on a concept basis. There's been an extraordinary amount of work on this plan. We have no intention of starting from scratch.
Okay, well then, Commissioner Sprague, continue with your questions.
Thank you. The AC condenser units, is that accurate on your plans where you have them placed? Yes? In Exhibit C, Unit 60, A, B, and C on the first floor, the AC unit is next to the master bedroom window and on the patio.
Sheet is it?
As drawing.
Well, what sheet are you referring to? Yes. I have no idea where.
I don't have a sheet number.
Exhibit C, what, first floor?
Exhibit C, Unit 60.
A3.
A, B, and C, first floor. That's it. No, that's it. AC unit that's on the patio, right in the middle on the back. It's right next to the master bedroom, or the great room. Is that master bedroom or great room? I can't read that. I have written down master bedroom. Is that your plan to have that there like that? I mean,
That was the best location for it, with the middle unit.
you won't have a problem selling that unit with that like that? Or are you hoping they don't notice?
We'll look into that.
Also, Exhibit D, Unit 65A, first floor. AC units below the deck and next to the great room, or right under the great room window. I just wanted to point these out that it's kind of poor planning there.
Thank you for pointing it out.
That is a walkout condition, so it's at the lower level below the great room.
You said there won't be a problem adding the pedestrian crossing, the brick pavers, into the,
If you really want, I mean, we could put one, I guess, where would be located. We don't have, there aren't currently pavers at every single spot where there's an opening for a crosswalk, but.
well, it was staff's concern, that's why I'm bringing it up.
Yeah, absolutely, that's something we'd be willing to do. I guess it would be determining, I mean, I guess one right in the middle. We'll work with staff to address that.
Thank you. Ron, that 2-hour rated walls that's in between, in the 10-foot between the buildings, is that sufficient? I know you brought up about the windows, but the walls themselves?
I'd have to actually look at the building code, because that's in the building code, but it sounds, from what I recall reading, that that's probably what the rating is, because usually it's like an hour rating. So there's, as the distance gets closer, the rating goes up. So that would sound consistent.
If you're within, the 5-foot setback would be a 1-hour rating.
Yeah. If I could just add to that just a little bit, we obviously have not sent this to B&F Technical, our plan review firm for building code compliance, but we did do a quick review of some of the building codes regarding that separation, and yes, it does appear that the fire code, increased firewall would allow for the buildings to be closer.
Thank you.
Now, you brought up about the canopies or the entrances, the canopies over the entrances being like 5 foot apart?
Correct.
Will that cause a problem if you needed to get a ladder in there, or any access issues there?
No, because it's only, we'll say 6 feet wide.
Yeah.
So you move the ladder 1 foot or, a couple feet either way, depending on where the windows are, is going to have a bigger impact on that than where that portico for that entryway is.
Is the brick on your buildings, is that the primary material?
About half of it is.
No, there's a primary and then a secondary.
The secondary would be the ephes up higher.
The ephes.
Right.
And you're aware that we like to see 60% primary?
I was aware of 50%, but I can do a calculation and show exactly the percentage.
And then I saw that there's quite a few elevation. There's quite a few sides that have way more eaves than brick. Is there a reason for that?
We were showing more ephes in the courtyards where it's not really viewable, but we could bring that level
Why isn't it doable? Viewable.
Viewable.
Gotcha.
Those are the intersections of the buildings, so people as they're driving by or walking by aren't really seeing that unless they're actually accessing those courtyards.
We trying to protect it from damage up to a certain height, but that could be raised.
Our guidelines, they say all elevations. Thank you for your time. That's all I have.
Commissioner Berkey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a question on this site plan here. I see there's a snow removal deposit zone on the northwest side and a snow zone on the northeast side. Just help me out. Is that also on the northeast? Is that also deposit zone or the same as the west side?
Especially when that was originally going to be handicap space, we were figuring that's an additional area that snow could be deposited, but that note still remains, which could be out of there.
Okay, because then if that were to be a snow removal zone, wouldn't that maybe block access to the back of the buildings, correct?
We can remove that.
Yeah. Well, other than that, I echo a lot of Commissioner Sprague's concerns, and of course, I know you can hash out the turning radius with the fire department, but those, from my perspective, and, those would be the biggest concerns, as well as the fire department access to the back of the townhomes. Other than that, that's all I have.
Thank you. Commissioner Blanova.
No questions at this point. No questions.
Nothing? All right. Could do a quick poll on the additional paver crossing for the sake of the petitioner. Do we feel it needs to be pavers? Probably in the middle of the townhome development going across the pond walkway? Commissioner Blanova?
Yeah, probably, yeah.
Commissioner Sprague?
I think it would be a nice addition.
Commissioner Berkey?
Yes.
And I would agree, so we definitely want to keep that in the plan, or add it back to the plan. I'm still concerned about the building separation, because 10 feet and only 5 feet with those porch entries is just really tight. I'd hate to see a fire in one unit wipe out all of them. I'm okay with the bike parking in the garages instead of having bike racks. Do I need to do a poll on that? What do you think? Mike?
They said they wanted to move it into the basement? Or garages?
Can we just maybe say interior bike parking?
Yeah.
Would that be
that's
better?
Okay, and a lot of this information we just got tonight, so obviously we didn't have time to look at it, the staff didn't have time to look at it, some of it anyways. Is that leasing office still in use?
It is not. We anticipated on using this for this project until we had at least one building up so that we could actually, obviously, with weather permitting, there's nowhere to show people. So we were hoping to use it until we had a usable unit to turn into a sales office, and then we'd be happy to take it out, rip out the pavement, and grass it as the basic original plan.
Kyle, would that be necessary to remove before?
That kind of goes against one of our conditions of approval. You guys are talking about modifying I guess, a development that is not quite finished yet. A couple of our comments indicated that, the leasing office was not intended to be a permanent structure there. It has been there ever since, Prairie Park was constructed. It was intended to be a detention basin. And these are items, there's a couple other items too, that need to kind of be addressed before this development can kind of be, continued. So, whether, if you can't use that leasing, that leasing office needs to be, at least that was one of our conditions of approval, that leasing office needs to be gone, detention basin, built, and all of that previous items for the original development completed. So, yeah, that leasing office would have to go and possibly be relocated elsewhere.
One thing I do want to point out is we do have an additional 3.5 acre feet of comp storage and detention on that site. I understand what you're saying, but obviously that area doesn't flood, and we have so much extra detention and storage that we were hopeful that, we could be allowed to use it, at least preliminary, until we at least have the structure up. Because we do have so much extra detention and comp storage.
Yes, I understand that, but that basin there was what was approved originally. Now, you obviously have, credits in that basin for comp storage, detention, whatever. Obviously you're going to be creating new not comp storage, but detention that's going to be going in that basement or basin as a result of this construction. Have not seen any numbers as to how much is going to be used. So how do we know that, this development that you're proposing here is not going to use up all those credits and, leave the need for that basin in the corner? Now, I understand, that there are credits, whatever, but that was originally approved to have a basin there. It was not intended to be a permanent leasing office.
So Kyle, again, would that be something that would be typical at final?
What do you mean?
To check the credits in the comp storage, et cetera?
Well, we can look over that, but I think that's kind of besides the point here. Yes, you can look into that basin that's in the middle of the, complex here to see if it has enough, storage to accommodate your new complex here. But, that doesn't get away from the fact that that basin at the northeast corner of the site there, or that leasing office, was not intended to be permanent. It was supposed to be removed as part of the original approved plans. If you're looking, yeah.
Got you. And that's something that we will consider and hopefully come back to you with an alternative or a proposal that meets with your satisfaction.
Sure.
Maybe it's not, and I'm just talking, maybe it's not removed today, but it's removed before we put a shovel in the ground or something.
Well,
let us kind of.
You might want to speak into the microphone, because the secretary that does the minutes is not going to be able to pick up what you're saying.
I apologize. With the mask and turning away from you, I apologize.
You can take it off while you're up there talking.
Thank you.
Sure, we can definitely, obviously more than happy to have a conversation with you to find a, reasonable way forward here. The end goal for us is to, kind of finish up what was started. Obviously, there's some aspects of the original development that were not finished. This seems like a good opportunity to get those items done. Now, whether that means they get completed before, shovels drop for this is one thing. Obviously, we can have that conversation.
Thank you.
Okay, this is for the staff and the boss, Mr. Clicker. Does staff feel they have enough information at this point to go on and approve a preliminary? Because that's not the sense I'm getting.
We have not had an opportunity to properly review the plat of subdivision that has been sent in. So it's difficult for me to answer that question at this point. But we believe there is documentation still needed for us to make a full recommendation on this site.
Aside from the plat, Ross?
There are concerns, we do have again, we want to, with the engineering concerns, with fire department concerns, we do not feel that we can make a full recommendation on it at this point. We're not standing in objection to it moving forward, but we as staff don't feel we have the adequate information.
Right, and some of this material just came to us tonight. Right. So obviously, the commission relies on the professionals to make those recommendations, to review it from the professional point of view. I'm not an engineer. I don't pretend to be one. As I understand it, the petitioner can request us to vote on the issue as presented. or we can continue it to a date certain of June 9th, I believe.
We'd like to come back on the 26th if we could. And the reason for that is,
May 26th,
yeah, May 26th.
Oh, we talked about June 9th.
or June 9th, sorry.
If Chairman, if you would just allow us to come back on the 26th, to the extent this project were to receive approval, we have a critical situation to get in the ground. We don't have time to kick for a month because before you know it, final engineering, we're going to be close to the fall. So we'd like, with your indulgence, to come back on the 26th. We will work diligently to respond to staff's questions in the interim or submit anything else. I think you got everything. I'm not sure if there's anything more for us to submit, but we're happy to work with staff. We urge you to please consider us on the 26th so that maybe, just maybe, we can get to the board on June 7th.
Well, it really only gives you a week to get any new drawings together.
I don't know that we're going to have new drawings. I think it's going to be an opportunity for staff to look at what they have and ask us any questions. So if it only gives us a week and there's not that much news for us to submit, we can do it.
How's the agenda for 2 weeks from now looking?
You have to ask Ross and Kyle if that's enough time for them to review.
I can provide Cliff, I can provide you with our preliminary plat checklist. So I can do that tomorrow, so you can kind of look through there and make sure that at least what was submitted has a lot of the items that is necessary. And then we can kind of go from there. Like I said, I haven't gotten a chance to fully review the plat yet. Like it was just recently received. But yeah.
I can tell you, this team was used to working under time pressure. So we can get you whatever you need quickly, but I'm not sure there's anything more. I think it's perhaps your review. Thank you for the guidance.
Sure.
And us being available to answer any questions.
Okay. In that case, do I hear a motion to continue this docket to a date certain of May, what was it, 26th?
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Berkey?
Yes.
Commissioner Blanova?
Yes.
Commissioner Sprague is a yes. Commissioner Yednak? I'm sorry, you abstain. Chairman Johnson?
Yes.
Thank you, Chairman.
See you in a couple of weeks.
Steve, I'm sure we'll talk soon.
And the public hearing stays open now.
Yes.
All right, approval of minutes of the regular meeting of April 28th, 2021, including the findings of fact for 2021-09. Do I hear a motion?
So moved. Second. Commissioner Sprague is a yes. Commissioner Berkey?
Yes.
Commissioner Blanova?
Yes.
Commissioner Yednak?
Yes.
Chairman Johnson?
Yes. Any other business? Start with Marcy.
No, I don't have anything.
Commissioner Berkey,
I'm sorry?
any other business?
No, I don't have any.
I know, it's getting late.
I was just taking a note down, so. No other business.
Commissioner Yednak?
No, I have nothing. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Sprague?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was just looking for maybe some updates on a few things that we had passed, like the car wash on Palwaukee.
They are, Ross, you want to take that?
As long as we got the whole staff
I know,
here.
you guys got to say something.
Part of the development approval process, if you recall, originally was a redevelopment agreement with the developer, the original developer. That needs to be transferred to the new developers of the property. They're in negotiations with the village to do that. The ball is in their attorney's, or in the new developer's court for, to sign off on it. We have not received that back yet, so it's our understanding that they are not going to proceed with the project until they get the RDA resolved. But again, the ball is in their court.
I see. How about the apartments, the workforce apartments that were supposed to go in on Wheeling Road?
That's coming back to us very soon, I believe.
Yeah,
is
the
it?
ball's in their court. We've given them comments,
Oh,
so
okay.
we're waiting for them to resubmit.
Okay. And then the addition to the asphalt plant, the expansion on the,
That project kind of died for
Oh,
now.
did it?
The last we heard from their design engineers that Builders Asphalt was waiting for a time where it made more financial sense. Is kind of what I heard. So
Okay.
as of right now, we have engineering drawings for it, which I think we went pretty far along in our review process, but I think they're holding off for the time being.
okay, thank you. Yep. That's all I have.
Commissioner Blanova,
Nothing, thank you.
anything new open up in town that people need to know about? No?
What happened to the spot?
That's a good question. I think that just went away. Mr. Clicker, you got any update on that?
You said it best. It just kind of has gone away. I don't believe that the petitioners were able to secure the financing necessary to build it out. We are still actually hopeful that they will come through. As you know, their special use still is actually active at this point. But we do know that the current property owners are marketing the site again, so.
I'll bet they started looking at the engineering on what was required.
Not to mention a spa construction right at the beginning of a pandemic,
Yeah.
you know,
No, that's true, too.
probably killed things too.
Yeah. All right. Anything else from staff? Fire department?
Nothing.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
It's a tie. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody, for being here.